I'm Brittany Lewis with Forbes Breaking News. Senator John Cornyn denounced the bombshell Supreme Court opinion leak. The draft opinion revealed that the highest court in the land might strike down federal abortion rights. During Thursday's Senate Judiciary Committee meeting, he described the leak as, quote, an attack against the independence of our federal judiciary. Here's more from the Texas Republican.
Preliminary remarks.
I'll be brief.
I think Senator Cornyn does. Then let me recognize you for that purpose. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be brief. The actions of a person who had access to a draft opinion of the Supreme Court releasing it was an attack against the independence of our federal judiciary. This is really our crown jewels. As Justice Scalia once noted, many countries, authoritarian countries, have very fine-sounding constitutions and Bill of Rights on paper, but they don't respect the rights of individuals because they don't have an independent judiciary. That's the reason why we go through this laborious process of advice and consent for federal judges who serve for life, to protect their independence. And it's not just an attack against the independence of the judiciary. This risks violence against members of the Supreme Court and their families. That's why last night, Senator Coons and I introduced a piece of legislation to enhance the authorities of the Supreme Court law enforcement agencies to provide protective details for the judges and their families who've already been threatened with violence. I would point out that on March the 5th, 2020, Senator Schumer, the majority leader of the United States Senate, when the case was argued, appeared in front of the Supreme Court and he said this. He said, from Louisiana to Missouri to Texas, Republican legislatures are waging war on women, all women, and they're taking away fundamental rights. I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price. You won't know what hit you if you go forward with these awful decisions. That's outrageous. For a member of the United States Senate, supposedly responsible adults, people who understand the separation of powers and the importance of judicial independence better than perhaps most, because we deal in these matters on a daily basis, to make that kind of threat to the Supreme Court is an attempt to intimidate the justices and a threat to judicial independence. Now, I'd like to just point out quickly, by my count, the Supreme Court has overruled a prior decision of the Supreme Court, a precedent, 233 times. So assuming, as Senator Grassley said, this were a final opinion, and it's not, and we don't know how it's going to come out, but even if it was, 233 times the Supreme Court has overruled a prior precedent, and thank goodness they've reconsidered such decisions as Plessy versus Ferguson, the separate but equal case, the Dred Scott case. Now, some of our colleagues have pointed to discussions about precedent, but I think members of this committee know, who are largely lawyers and who've had extensive legal practice, and some have even worn the black robes and sat on the bench and decided cases. We understand precedent to being something maybe a little different than what a layman or non-lawyer or non-judge would understand it to be. Not only has the court revisited and overruled prior cases, we know that as an empirical fact, but we've heard time and time again how the doctrine of stare decisis sets out a set of rules by which judges consider overruling a prior decision of the court. And what those considerations are. And though that is the approach that responsible judges take in considering whether to overrule a prior precedent. So some have, I think, understood the word differently than others, but there is no such thing as a permanent, inviolable decision of the United States Supreme Court, and thank goodness for that. Again, because when egregious mistakes like the separate but equal doctrine are handed down by the Supreme Court, we want a Supreme Court to go back and revisit it, and according to the analysis that is standard in that sort of situation, we want them to correct wrong decisions, to right wrongs. So, unfortunately, our colleagues have found this to be a politically opportune. They'd like to distract the American people from their concerns about their shrinking paychecks and inflation, crime, the open border policy of the Biden administration. They'd like to distract them from our responsibilities around the world to protect democracies like Ukraine, to help them defend themselves, by focusing on this admittedly emotional issue. But somebody's got to be the responsible actor around here. We can't stoop to the level of the mob. We have to stand up and say what we believe and understand to be right, and about how wrong it is to attack the independence of the court by prematurely leaking a draft document, and then doing as the Senate Majority Leader did and telling justices, you will pay the price. You won't know what hit you. How wrong is that? How irresponsible is that? How dangerous is that?